Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, guys. Welcome to my first reaction video. So, me, as your brother talks here in Syria, I'm actually quite uniquely placed where I can say certain things, I can be brash about it, I don't have to beat around the bush, and I can be uncensored. I'm gonna be reacting to a brother who's quite controversial. His name's Mahdi Tidjani. And to be honest, I've seen a couple of his stuff before and I thought, what is this guy saying, you know? It's kind of like, you could say, annoyed me a little bit, but I've, bit my tongue. And it wasn't until one of my good friends, Dilly Hussein, brought him onto the Blood Brothers podcast that I said, okay, let me see what Dilly has to say, because Dilly's a brother that, he's, known to be quite a good investigative journalist. He probes people. So I'm hoping that he's going to have done this in this podcast, and I'm going to be reacting to this brother Mahdi and some of the things that he has to say. Now, bear in mind today, we're in an environment where all of this red pill, a lot of these terminologies that are new school on the internet are being adopted by Muslims. And I think that this stuff is really, really dangerous. We have to always look to Islam for our answers. So let's take a look and let's see what this podcast is all about.
Today's guest is someone who, before we started filming, said, describe yourself. So I'm a bit like Marmite. I think there are different kind of words we can perhaps find to describe our esteemed guest. He is a social media influencer, though he denies it to be one. He's someone who has a lot to say about men's related issues. And he's someone whose work I have been following quite recently, and there's lots to be spoken about in that regard. And that's none other than brother Mahdi Tidjani.
Pleasure to be here.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
What's been happening, bro?
Alhamdulillah, akhi. I'm looking forward to a very interesting discussion, especially off the back of the Twitter fest, mashallah.
Of course. When I asked a few people about Mahdi Tidjani, at least 3 people said to me, oh, the Muslim red pill guy. Why does that label attribute to? Why is it attribute to?
I think for a while my Instagram handle was the Red Mahdi.
Oh,
so
yes.
I think it's from that. My Instagram handle is the Mahdi Tidjani now. But
So this whole red pill movement is, like I said, there's things from it which, you can agree with as any man. But again, a lot of these philosophies, a lot of these, movements are very dangerous. And this is where a lot of people have conflicts. So it's going to be interesting to see what this brother has to say.
there are a lot of red pill realities that I have a debt of gratitude for having learnt it from the non-Muslims in the red pill space, you see. So I can't turn around and say, oh no, I've got no affinity to them, or no, I benefited greatly from a lot of their work, from some of the content creators in that space. Some of them who've been there for a very long time, we're talking decades. So, and the whole term red pill, where does it come from in the first place? It's a matrix terminology, you know.
Red pill, blue pill.
Red pill, blue pill, continue with your fake existence. Red pill, I'll show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. And give you the realities of what is actually going on in the world. And with regards to this discussion, that is women, specifically in a relationship dynamic.
So it's interesting what he's saying in regards to the red pill and how he has a debt of gratitude to these people. Now, obviously for me, the red pill, if we're going to use this analogy, the red pill is Islam. Islam is what takes you out of the matrix. You know, it shows you life for what it is. That should be the standard. So for him to say that he's got a debt of gratitude to, you know, some of those influences and stuff, like I said, we're already going down a dangerous trajectory. And I think that's problematic.
I don't want to delve in too much to conversations that you've already had in the past, namely with Muhammad Hijab and Gabriel Romani, about, you know, those from the red pill movement or community that have held positions or moral positions whereby Islam has something to say about this area. So I don't want to go in too much into that.
Yeah.
But what I will ask you is, what is it that you've benefited from that your religion could not give to you?
No, oof.
It's a really good question. What is it that Islam couldn't give you that red pill could? Interesting question. Spot on, Dilly.
We have to be careful how we say that, okay? It is not a deficiency or a lack on the part of the religion just because we have taken some knowledge from somewhere else. I say this on my podcast over and over. Islam does not have a monopoly on general knowledge. Your background is in politics, right?
Politics and journalism.
You didn't learn politics and journalism from the Quran or the books of Hadith.
No, but I got a particular framework from there, though.
You've got your framework from there, but I'm sure when you did your degree, for example, there would have been certain books that you had to go through and memorize the material from.
The vast majority were not the Quran and Sunnah.
Barakallahu feek. If you wanted to become a brain surgeon tomorrow,
nothing's in the Quran.
You're not going to learn. You are not going to trust me to perform brain surgery on your father. La samahakallah. Just because I said to you, I'm a hafid of the Quran. So you can take general knowledge, beneficial, ilmun nafi', from wherever it comes from. And this is not a slight on the religion. The Quran is hidayah, is guidance.
Wicked.
Okay, so what he's saying here, I agree with to a certain extent. So what do I mean by that? Ilmun nafi', yeah, of course, we take knowledge from whether that may be, as long as it's not contrary to Quran and Sunnah. But where I find the problem is that when we're talking about women, Islam has chapters called Surah Al-Nisa where ahkam, rulings are given regarding women. The seerah of the Prophet ﷺ is filled with how he dealt with his wives. So I'm interested to see what this brother has learned from the red pill that he couldn't get for Islam and that he finds beneficial.
So are we then saying that the knowledge that you did take or benefit from the red pill space, community, movement, were not things that Islam had a say in?
Yes. So, for example, okay, the concept of alpha.
So now if that is the case, then that's fine. If Islam hasn't spoken about this issue and it's something that's not mukhalif sharia or against the religion, then okay. Let's see what he has to say.
For widows. What is an alpha widow? An alpha widow is a woman who was with a man whom she perceived to be alpha. The reality is irrelevant whether he was or wasn't, it's her perception. For whatever reason, they went their separate ways. Maybe she left him, maybe he left her. But he has forever imprinted himself upon her. And no matter which other man she moves on in the next relationship or the one after that, she has still got in the back of her mind that experience with that man. And every other man thereafter is simply compared to him. He is the measuring stick by which she uses to see whether other men meet this standard or not. And usually she blows over this image in her mind, you know, because she feeds it so much attention. He becomes more than what he really was. And by extension, no man will ever be able to live up to that, because now this is not even a reality.
Even if that alpha ex-husband of hers could have been oppressive.
Especially, have you ever heard of the term trauma bond?
Of course.
There can be trauma bonds there.
Okay, so, I mean, first of all, he's talking about this concept about the alpha widow, okay? And, okay, maybe that exists where you marry a woman who has that attachment to her first husband or partner or etc. Of course, this is human nature. Those things can happen. But we see from the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ that time and time again, the Prophet ﷺ himself married many widows, and so did the companions. So what's the message here? Is he saying don't marry widows? I don't understand what the point of that is. Is he saying to brothers, be careful of alpha widows? What's he saying?
Let's quickly just wrap up on this red pill stuff, right? Yeah.
Sure.
Tell me about some of the concepts or positions which you've benefited from that you have said have helped you. When I said to you, oh, was there some shortcoming in your religion? We'd be careful. Okay, fine. What I meant by that was, were there things that you took from the red pill community, ideology, movement, whatever you want to call it, that Islam also had things to say about?
Perhaps, yes. Okay, let me give you an...
It's a good question. Like even his first answer to the whole red pill thing, yani, what did Islam not give you? And he started talking about alpha widows. Wasn't really what kind of answer was that? That's like so important information that we really need, isn't it?
Let me give you an example. Women are hypergamous by nature. This is not a red pill thing. This is just a well-known thing, right? Hypergamy meaning women want their superior. She wants a man taller than her, stronger than her, preferably richer than her and more intelligent than her. You never heard a woman say, I want a man who's weaker than me and dumber than me. You just didn't hear that, right? She's looking for her superior. So with that being the case then...
Broski, let me just quickly cut in there.
Sure.
There'll be sisters out there, there'll be women out there that would want that second category of man, dumber than her, thicker than her, richer than her is cool, but everything else,
Yeah.
so she can control him.
But yeah, you're right.
So she can, so she has an easy life of domination and control and not being.
For this, we would say that the exception to the rule merely proves the rule.
Really?
Yeah, of course, because this is an exception. If there are women like this who exist, which I'm sure there are, because they prioritize control, and we can get to that afterwards with yesterday's video, they prioritize control over her natural fitrah.
So look, this is where I agree with what the brother's saying. He's right, this is not a red pill thing. Women are hypergamous in nature, they want a superior, and the Quran backs that up. الرِّجَالُ قَوَّمُونَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ. That the men are the maintainers and protectors of women. That's how it's supposed to be. That's the natural order. So, yeah, okay, let's see what he has to say. What has he benefited from the red pill?
Right? We can get to that. But they are the exception as opposed to the rule. Okay, generally speaking, a woman wants her superior. She doesn't want someone who is inferior to her on most metrics. It's not something she can show off about, because women use men as social status symbols. Look at my husband, you see? Mm-hmm. So with that being the case then, if you put yourself in a position whereby you are proving your worth to her, you have flipped these dynamics, and what you are subcommunicating to her is, you are superior to me, therefore I must prove myself to you. Just in the same way, if you were an employer and I'm coming to you to apply for a job, I would need to impress you. Okay, you're my employer, I must impress you. In this instance here, she's the employer, or you've put her on that pedestal, and now you are making yourself or conducting yourself in a way where you feel you must prove yourself to her. And in the back of her mind, she's thinking, but if this guy was the one, why is he having to prove himself to me? Surely I should have to prove myself to him.
I have to explain this guy to my dad though.
How do you mean?
Because if this guy impresses me, I have to now take those accolades and convey it to my father to make him someone who's suitable for my hand.
No problem in...
I remember when I talk, I'm talking, I can't speak for Maghrebis, I can't speak for Turks, Arabs, Kurds.
Okay, what is Mahdi talking about? That's something that you had to benefit from the red pill, that information that women, you know, they have flipped it around and they are going against their nature. Look, the ayah of the Quran is very clear. The natural order is that men are maintainers and protectors of women. I don't need no red pill theory to explain that to me, because we understand that the hikmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's reasons behind that.
I'm saying the repeated need to prove yourself to her time and time again. This is where it becomes a problem, and this is where she starts to question your worth in her eyes. For if we use the employer and employee example again, well, if she's looking for her superior, then you should be in the employer position. You are actually looking to employ a wife, as opposed to her looking to employ a husband.
Why does it have to be like that?
Because she's hypergamous.
But why does it have to be like an employment thing?
Let's not get too fixated on those terms. That was just an analogy to try and make sense of it.
But this is the thing, the analogies that he uses are very derogatory, like your wife is your employee. Do you understand? This is where Islam and the wisdoms that Islam are given are much stronger than this red pill theory. What he's talking about here now is so clear-cut and obvious. When you look at the Sahaba and you look at the way that they dealt with their wives, it's easy to see who the dominant, Islam is a patriarchy. We know this. Why do we need the red pill theory to tell us this? I don't understand.
If you're asking me why...
terms are important, man.
طيب,
Language are vehicles to meanings, Habibna.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, why does it have to be like that? You would have to ask the woman, why do you need someone who is superior to you? Which I believe, by the way, that this is the normal state of affairs. This is not abnormal. This is not something women should be reprimanded for. This is not something they should be mocked for. This is normal. But to ask that question is akin to saying, what I just said. Well, sister or woman, why do you need your superior? Why can't you marry someone who is less intelligent than you, who is weaker than you? You can bench press 40 kilos. What's wrong with him bench pressing 15 kilos? Why does he have to catch the bullet for you? Why can't you go downstairs if you hear a knock on the door in the middle of the night? Why does it have to be him? How far do we take the discussion?
Okay, I guess what I'm trying to say is, or ask you is, the framing of certain realities, right? It is the conclusive style in which you discuss these things. Which
See, I think when you're looking at things from a Western spectrum, one of the things that he says here, which I have to kind of open and agree to, is the fact that, yeah, today in a Western conversation, there is this question of, oh, should the man go downstairs and defend his wife if a robber's coming into the house? But from an Islamic perspective, it's crystal clear. You know, you would be a coward if someone came to attack your wife and you did nothing. You would be a duyuth if someone came to uncover the ard, your wife and you did nothing, or someone was looking at your wife in a way and you did nothing. People like Mu'tasima, who was a Muslim ruler who, some say was a tyrant, sent out a whole army for the honor of one woman. So this exists in Islam. Why do we need to readdress this from the red pill, narrative? I don't understand, when Islam is already telling us, as men, you have to have izzah. As men, you have to be the maintainer, the protector, all of these things.
seem definitive, Yani. Like, even if I was to accept that 70% or 80% or even 90% of women, and by the way, are we talking Muslim women or women in general?
It's women in general. It's not a Muslim thing.
Why not?
Because it's not.
How?
Women are hypergamous across the board.
Okay, but at the very least, Islam would help contain and channel that in a manner in which is not haram.
Beautiful
In
statement.
a manner which is not oppressive.
Beautiful statement. Islam does fetter hypergamy when it is practiced properly. In fact, Islam fetters everyone. Point blank, period. Okay? What is one problem that a lot of other content creators have taken with me in the...
Okay, so that's a reasonable statement, that Islam gives us the parameters and the boundaries. This is right. This is more of the kind of the things that we should be taking or looking to, that Islam gives us the parameters.
This whole red pill stuff, it promotes sleeping with many women. In fact, some content creators, big content creators, will say sleep with a minimum of 50 women before you consider getting married. And their rationale is, after you've been through 50 women, you'll have a good idea of a woman's nature, not realizing that there's a contradiction here, which is you are contributing to the cancer of women with high body counts, and we can get to that afterwards, right?
Okay, so Alhamdulillah, he's accepted the fact that there are problematic views within the red pill spectrum, which is good. Alhamdulillah, he's saying that some of these influencers, they propagate clear haram, like sleeping with over 50 women, etc. I'm glad that he's concluded that.
I am still of the position that marrying a single mum is a lot more difficult to deal with than marrying a sister who doesn't have children, or indeed hasn't been married before. And there are obvious reasons for this, okay? To begin with, she has children from a previous marriage. Okay.
Okay, so as a general statement, of course, we can agree with that. That marrying a sister who's been married before is, in a general sense, more difficult to be married to than a sister who hasn't been married before. In a general sense, of course, there's always exceptions.
You are most likely going to have all of the responsibility with regards to raising her children with very limited authority. Very limited authority, because women are mothers are very protective over their children, and all the more so when dealing with a strange man who is not their blood. If you marry a single mom, and to those who are watching, how many single moms do you know who will allow you full authority over their children? Full authority, without her intervening, without her interrupt, so long as you're behaving just, of course, you're not oppressing the kids. But even then, some of them will tell you, he has oppressed my children, and you find out he just shouted at them.
Okay, that's a valid point, but again, it comes down to the hikmah of the man. What the advice should be is that we need to have men that are more hakim and have more wisdom. And how can you be more wise in dealing with sisters who have children from a previous marriage. Yeah, not in a way this brother speaking that, you know, is kind of putting people off marrying sisters that are widows or divorcees.
Or he took their devices away for a day. You're going to have very limited authority in dealing with her children. Couple that with the fact that now it's a sunk cost investment. Every penny that you invest into those children is a sunk cost, and other than you do it for the sake.
Astaghfirullah. And that sounds really bad. Let me help to, I want to understand what he's saying here, but on the offset, to say that raising and supporting a widow's children is a sunk cost, for me, that is something that is mukhalif al-sharia, and is, to be honest, a disgusting statement.
For the sake of Allah, alhamdulillah, mashallah.
I'm saying you're doing waste of money.
Then you do it for the sake of Allah, alhamdulillah, mashallah.
I'm saying you're doing waste of money.
Waste of money. And let me explain to you why. Those children have no Islamic obligation to maintain any tie with you whatsoever when they grow up. None at all. And there's nothing you can say about this. You can provide for a son, mashallah, for a child or children, mashallah, their whole lives. You put them through school. This is so common, by the way. You'd be surprised how common this story is. I put them through school. I paid for them, so on and so forth. And then she left me. And then she went off into the sunset with next man.
You know what? This is such a... And he says, of course, if you do it fi sabilillah, but that's the whole point. That's what we should be encouraging people to do. You look after the children of a widow. Imagine you look after the children of a wife of a shaheed. The ajr is massive. And I can't remember the riwayah of the hadith, but the one who looks after the yatim and the wife of a shaheed, there is a massive ajr reward for them. So now for you to say it's a sunk ship, it's a waste of money because you're not going to get anything in return in this dunya, what are you doing it for? Because you want those children to just be, you know, slaves to you or something, or you want... I find this kind of rhetoric is, to be honest, is sad.
And the children don't want nothing to do with me. So all I am simply saying to the brothers is, if you are going to get yourself in this type of situation, understand what you're getting yourself into, understand the pieces on the chessboard. And if you understand the pieces on the chessboard and you're happy with that, then bismillah, tawakkal ala Allah.
So this is a very important...
Okay, so look, the end part of that is fine. Understand what you're getting yourself into. Okay, that's important. But where's the nasiha? Where's the brothers, you know what, this is a act that is, you know, something that's rewardable. It's something that's pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You take on another family. You know, you support a sister that has nobody. You take on orphans, or you take on children that are being raised in a single. Where is all of that? Yani the way that the brother speaks about, you know, being with a widow or a divorcee and her children, like, as a sunk ship. See, this is the problem with this red pill narrative, is that you start taking on these Western thoughts and ideas. That is something that is so contrary to Islam.
As opposed to don't do it.
If you know what you're getting yourself into and you feel like, you know what, I don't have many other options right now, or, you know, what else am I going to do? Maybe you fear haram. I don't know what your personal situation is. So long.
You see, even those things, I don't have many options right now, all of this kind of stuff, you know, it's like, it's very derogatory. Why can't you, like the Prophet ﷺ, when he married Khadija, was that because, radiallahu anha, because he never had no options, or because she was a high value woman? Do you understand? She was, you know, in previous marriages, or because he saw that there was something fruitful and something beneficial there. And that's why this rhetoric is very dangerous.
As long as you understand what you're getting yourself into, and khalas, tawakkal ala Allah after that. I will tell you this though. We can take this conversation even more, make it even more complicated now. If we are talking about bringing a stepfather into a situation or a marriage with a sister who has daughters, okay? And to quote Will Farrell from his book, The Boy Crisis, children or stepfathers that are brought in to a situation, a living arrangement with a woman who has girls, those girls are 100 more times, 100, by a factor of 100 more times more likely to be molested or sexually abused in some type of way, shape or form than if they were living with their biological father. This is not something to be it's not a big, this is major.
Okay, now look what the brother's saying here. The Sharia also has an answer for this. When a woman has children from a previous marriage and they are daughters, for example, and she decides to get married again, those daughters, okay, especially when they're baligh, they are under what? Under the guardianship of the father. And if the father's not around, then it goes to the asab, the father's family, which would be his, uncles and fathers and brothers and all of that kind of stuff, because the lineage comes from the dad's side. So if people are going against this, and this is happening in a Western context, which I assume the brother's talking about, where sisters still have their children from a previous marriage, the Sharia has already dealt with this. And now what you're talking about, again, you're dissuading people from marrying widows and divorcees because of a Western, a Western atmosphere or environment that's been created.
And women know on some level of consciousness as well that, okay, if I've got a girl and she's growing up, or maybe she's a grown girl, like, we can all play like happy families, and it's his dad. No, it's not. It's not his dad.
And the point here, do I agree with the fact that your daughters, for example, now my daughters, if I was in a relationship, I had a divorce, and I had daughters from that relationship, I would never leave them to be raised by another man. And I would hope in the event that if I'm not there, that her uncles, my brother or my father would take her into our household because they are her mahrams. Do you understand?
It's because I have conversations with sisters. Why have sisters taken an affinity to the idea of nostringsnikah? It's because a lot of them have daughters whom they are concerned about bringing another man. She might like him and so on, but aside from the fact that she likes him, she don't really know him from Adam, right? Mm-hmm. And she's concerned about integrating him full time into this environment with her growing daughters, or maybe even her grown daughters, which is even worse, right?
Okay, so this is really interesting how now he's brought in nostringsnikah and he's propagating it via young daughter or older daughters getting possibly molested, and the stats are apparently very high, and also the fact that sisters may not want that, which may or may not be true.
Right. So then, what's the solution for them? Because previously, if you have a look at my earlier content on YouTube, my position was don't marry them full stop. That's not a solution. That doesn't provide a solution for these sisters.
Do you accept that was wrong?
What's the solution for them? That they find good, God-fearing husbands that fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and that are going to look after them and their children. And if they are elder daughters, that they can go to the asab, to the male guardians. That would be the right thing. That's the solution that the Sharia puts out there.
Everybody evolves their opinions over time. To quote, I can't remember which Greek philosopher, who said, if you're not embarrassed by the version of yourself last year, you have not progressed fast enough. So it's an evolution over time. And even then, it was rooted in certain fundamental truths that we can't hide away from and deny. The sunk cost investment, for example. The fact that you will be her second priority, you will never be her first priority because she has her children to tend to. And that's going to make you feel some type of way because you are not biologically connected to them, you see.
I think, to be honest, as somebody who, probably thinks that he's an alpha male, this is a really weak-minded mentality. That if you're, someone who's supposed to be a strong Muslim, that would be the last thing on your mind. At the end of the day, you're going into this marriage because you want to be the maintainer and protector. And I wouldn't let that be a factor, to dissuade you or to be afraid from that you're going to be second priority.
When it's your child,
you can accept it.
You can accept it. That's my child. It's okay. But when it's not, and we like to hide away from this discussion like it's not real. It's my child. No, bruv, it's not your child. Behave yourself.
Let me ask you this, bro.
Okay, look, again, when it comes to your raba'ib, okay, or your rabib, the ayah of the Quran is clear, raba'ibukum, okay? In Surah Al-Nisa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about those who are your mahram, okay? And in them are those, so if you've entered upon a woman, her children automatically become your raba'ib, they become your mahrams. You cannot marry them, you cannot, do you understand? Do those things. Also, the Sharia is explicit. Yes, they don't inherit from you. Yes, you as the stepfather do not become the wali. All of these things are clear. The answers are in the religion. For him to sit here and say, oh, you know, they're not your children and whatever. Yeah, we know this from Islam. Islam set out the clear parameters. Why do we need red pill, or why do we need to say, brother, oh, stop it, etc.? We can give them the advice that the Sharia gives.
Would it be fair that sometimes you're magnifying a situation worse than it really is?
Well, again, to quote...
I agree 100%. I feel that he's magnifying the situation greater than it is and dissuading brothers from an act that is, you know, rewardable for someone to go marry a divorcee or a widow. And I find that that's, to be honest, that's, you know, reprehensible. That's not something that Islam, neither the Seerah, you know, preaches. You know, you're giving a message which is anti-divorcee, anti-widow, but Islam gives us the opposite message.
If you had said by a factor of 2 or 3 that child molestation cases go up when a stepfather is brought into an, then maybe you could. By a factor of 100, it's the number one reason why minors are sexually infringed upon is the presence of a non-biological father. That's not magnifying.
Okay, khalas.
So he's saying now that having a stepfather magnifies abuse by times 100, according to Will Farrell. And that's not him magnifying it. But now from an Islamic context, for someone who's talking as a Muslim influencer, where's the corroboration? How does that benefit us as a Muslim community? What is your message? Is your message to sisters, don't let a stepfather into your home, beware of your daughters? To brothers, don't marry widows who have daughters that are older because you're going to become a rapist or a molester. What is the message?
What I'm saying to you is, how about those many families that just make it work?
Okay, we accept that sometimes those children may not give you the same love as your own children. You may not have the same authority. But this is where taqwa comes in. You're not doing it for a muqabil. You're not doing it to receive something in return. You're doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're doing it because you want to gain ajr. You're doing it because you want to have a positive impact on the life of those children, and you realize that any good that you do, inshallah, for those children is going to be a sadaqah jariyah for you. That's the Islamic message behind it. That's the Islamic narrative. We do good unto others not because we want something in return.
They have sabr, they bite their tongue, and they just...
I'm an example of one of those, right? So I got married when I was 16. I got the second wife when I was 25, and my third wife when I was 27. Okay?
So, really strange. He says, I am an example of one of those people that made it work. So why are you so anti? That just don't make no sense to me. And so, interesting, he's gone on to say that he was married 3 times by the age of 27.
So at 27, you had 3 wives?
I had 3 wives, yeah. I'm still with the third wife. First 2 went. I'm still with the third wife, alhamdulillah. Third wife is a widow. Okay? So her husband died. She had 3 children.
So, I mean, I find this brother a walking contradiction. Your whole message is, which you've gained from the red pill, which we've understood right now, is that in the beginning you were like, we shouldn't touch widows and divorcees. You changed that position and you said, no, that's not a solution. But your message is still pretty negative towards marrying widows or divorcees, and there's lots of red flags that people should be aware of. But then the 2 sisters that you married previously, you're no longer with them, and the one that you're actually still with was a widow. I'm baffed.
Children from that marriage with her husband. I'm an example of...
Whoa. Let's rewind.
And now he says, whoa.
You were 16, had the second wife at 25, and your current wife who's still with you, alhamdulillah, you married at 27.
At 27, yeah.
So at 27, you had 3 wives.
Yep.
As it stands now, the first 2 are not with you.
First 2 are not with me. I'm with the third wife.
With the third wife, the widow that you married, did she have children from the previous marriage?
3 children.
You still with her?
I'm still with her, of course. Yeah.
Wow, explain how... So
now even Dilly is flabbergasted. Okay, let's see what he's got to say. Why is he still with her and not with the other 2?
See, look, if I smoke cigarettes, a pack a day, 2 packs a day, 2 packs of 40 a day, for 50 years, and I don't get so much of as a cough by the time I'm 70, and mashallah, I live to old age and I die of natural, do I now turn around and tell people, by the way, this whole thing that cigarettes causes cancer, this is all nonsense? Look at me.
That's not right.
Right.
That's not right.
So, in my, and I don't want to say too much because I want to ward off, yani, I don't like people knowing my blessings in that regard, but I have complete authority, total authority with the children, to the point where even sometimes, because I can be harsh.
Wait a second. I have to go back here, yani. I have to understand what this brother said. What this brother said.
Current wife who's still with you, alhamdulillah, you married at 27.
At 27, yeah.
So at 27, you had 3 wives.
Yep.
As it stands now, the first two are not with you.
First two are not with me, I'm with the third wife.
With the third wife, the widow that you married, did she have children from the previous marriage?
3 children.
You're still with her?
I'm still with her, of course, yeah.
Wow, explain how.
So,
Explain the hypocrisy. That's what Lily's saying.
see, look, if I smoke cigarettes, a pack a day, 2 packs a day, 2 packs of 40 a day, for 50 years, and I don't get so much of as a cough by the time I'm 70, and mashallah, I live to old age and I die of natural, do I now turn around and tell people, by the way, this whole thing that cigarettes causes cancer, this is all nonsense? Look at me.
That's not right.
A'udhu billah. This is where this brother needs to fear Allah, and that is a waste man comment, which is mukhalif sharia. Now, look at what he's saying, and this is a problem with movements like the red pill. What you've done here, brother, is you're comparing your wife. First of all, have some respect for your wife. Yeah? You're comparing her to being something haram, something that is bad for your health. Like you say, smoking 2 packs, 40 cigarettes a day and not getting cancer. How can you describe your wife like this just because of the fact that she's a widow and she had children before? Now, if we look at the Sharia, which obviously Brother Mahdi is not looking at, and I advise you, brother, look at the Sharia and look at the example of the companions. Atiqa radiallahu anha was married to 4 companions. All of them were shuhada. All of them were martyred. What did the companions say about her? Did they say that she's like a pack of cigarettes and we didn't get cancer? They said, Man arada shahada falyatazawwaj atiqa. That whoever wants to be a shaheed, marry atiqa. They didn't put a stigma on her that she's a pack of cigarettes. Fear Allah, brother. The way that you're talking like this is completely against Islam, and this is the problem. This is what we face with brothers like this. You're just talking about it blasé. Imagine your wife now sitting at home. If that was my sister and you made a comment like that, I would want to smack you up, bruv. Because that's completely disrespectful. And this is another concept in Islam. We have the concept of ard, that our honor, we have to defend our honor. Imagine you're talking about someone's sister. If that was my sister, I wouldn't accept that. I wouldn't take that. Let's see what this guy's got to say moving on.
Right. That's not right. So, in my, and I don't want to say too much because I want to ward off, yani, I don't like people knowing my blessings in that regard, but I have complete authority, total authority with the children, to the point where even sometimes, because I can be harsh, and by harsh I'm not talking about physical, I'm talking about at least I'm taking devices away and things like this, right? And even my wife says sometimes, she says, no, Mahdi, sometimes you're harsh, but I'm thankful that you're here. Because actually she said to me once, I don't know what I would do without you. Because I keep them on the straight and narrow. And this is the job of the father, is to police the children before the police do. And this we can take that discussion in many different angles.
Bro, you're just proving that it can work. MashaAllah, tabarakallah, your wife, she's giving you that authority and you're disciplining them. You're just proving that it can work. So why not give nasiha to people to engage in this and gain that ajr? Why all of this false bravado and this kalam?
But most men in households where they actually have biological children don't have full authority with their mothers. Sorry?
And can't police their children.
And can't police their children. Never mind with children that are not even related to them.
Okay, so that's the point. So should we now most men, like you're saying, let's use your logic. Most men can't police or have authority over their own biological children. So does that mean they should stop having children? Is that the message you should give people? Brothers, beware of having children because you may not be able to have authority over them. Or do we say in the Sharia, brothers, This is the role of a man. In Islam, this is how the man should raise his children. Again, it's just a message which it makes no sense. It's a negative, unnecessary, unneeded message.
So I'm the guy who smokes 2 packs a day of cigarettes for 50 years and doesn't get cancer. But I'm not going to come out here and tell people, look at me. I made it work, so can you.
A'udhu billah. And again, with the same analogy, I'm the guy that smoked 50 cigarettes a day and I never got cancer. Look at me, do it. This is, I find this rhetoric abhorrent. It's disgusting. And, you know, it's not about, actually, to be honest, I don't care if brothers want to come and say, oh, you're defending women and whatever. This is from Islam. It's a question of honor. We do not talk about our wives like this. This is not befitting of a Muslim alpha male, if you want to talk about it, a Muslim man, to talk about his own wife in this manner.
Why?
May Allah make it easy for her if she's listening to this.
Because that's a nonsensical argument.
No, but why can't you then share the experiences that you had and the things which you utilized and implemented to make it work?
Exactly what I'm saying. Exactly what I'm saying.
It's not really about me. It's about my wife.
Okay, so can I ask you a few questions? So you got into a marriage which you're still in, which you're also kind of advising against brothers to go into, at least having caution going into. So why would it not?
Yeah, he's advising against it. Thanks for clarifying, Dilly. Dilly is spot on. Like, there's a big contradiction here in your rhetoric, in your kalam. That's basically what you're saying. Stay away from widows and divorcees.
Would it not be fair and just for you to share how it worked?
Like I said, number one, we're doing that. And number two, it's not me. I would love to sit here and tell you the reason why I have been able to make it work is because of me.
So tell me about the other side then.
I will. I would love to tell you it's because, you know, I've got it on point and I know how to straighten these women and all the rest of it. The reality is that, may Allah reward my wife,
Ameen.
is that she is
Ameen.
extremely obedient, she is submissive, and she is respectful.
Which are all good Islamic traits, mashallah, alayha. So why not give the message and tell our sisters, if that's your message and that's what you want to propagate, sisters, this is how you need to be. If you're a widow or a divorcee and you're looking to make a marriage work.
Those three things, that trifecta. And she makes it easy for me to raise these kids. It's not difficult for me. I also have a greater degree of compassion towards them because they are orphan children and they lost their father in a very dramatic way.
Mashallah, the aitam as well. So, I don't understand. It just reminds me of the verse. يعني يا أيها الذين آمنوا لما تقولون ما لا تفعلون. Oh, you have believed, why do you say that which you do not do?
So there's a greater degree of compassion there, and I've also separated widows and divorcees as well when it comes to this discussion.
Oh,
okay?
now
There's a
you've
difference
separated
between
widows
divorcees
and
and widows,
divorcees.
and we can have that discussion. But the main point here is that in this instance, the credit must go to my wife because she is the one who has made it easy for me to have full authority. And she has complete respect. Even at times she doesn't agree with me, but she puts her head down and she's silent. Because usually I'm right anyway. Not being pig-headed or anything, but I am. Usually I'm right. And she accepts that sometimes I make mistakes. And if I make mistakes, I own up to it. But she accepts this is the captain of the ship. Sometimes...
This guy is hilarious. This guy is hilarious. That is subhanAllah. Like the first part you were doing so well. Brother Mahdi, you were doing so well. MashaAllah, my wife's good. She's submissive. She listens. MashaAllah. But then you had to go and throw in there that I'm right all the time. Wallah, it's like... Allahu musta'an.
Sometimes the captain is going to go the wrong way, no matter. Because usually the captain goes the right way. I chose this man to be my husband. I chose him to be involved with the lives of my children. I am going to allow him to captain this ship, even if he takes a wrong turn every now and again.
How quickly was that established between
Which
you?
is right, which is good.
But again, this is not me. This is not really my doing. If you have a look at her mother and her father, very dominant character, Allahumma barik. Her mother, very respectful and... Passive is not a good word. Passive has a negative connotation, but easy to lead. So that was her model. Her model was dominant father, respectful mother who was easily led by her father. Okay, well, she's the same way. She's the exact same way. So how can I tell brothers now, brothers, I made it work, now you too? No, what I would say to you is, does the sister possess those qualities?
Boom. So that's what I'm talking about. So,
or does she at least have the potential to conduct herself in that manner?
But what I'm saying is, this is the problem with your message. Like now in a monogamous marriage, or we're not even talking about polygyny here, but in any relationship, okay, a sister, whether she's a widow or a divorcee, or she hasn't been married before, if she doesn't possess those qualities, it's going to be problematic. So it doesn't make a difference whether she's a widow or a divorcee, or if she's, never been married before. If she doesn't possess those qualities, which is to be respectful, to be obedient, then you're going to fall into problems. Now, granted, we could agree to a certain extent that the probability or the percentage of marrying a woman who's a divorcee or a widow, it may be harder to find a sister who's got them qualities now because she's been used to a previous man, possibly. But, you know, you're just proving the argument. You're proving yourself wrong.
So is one of the positions that have evolved is outright not marrying divorcee women or single mothers to now consider differentiate
I would say
between...
actually that's not even a Shari'i compliant statement. For me to say...
Good. So he understands that's not a Shari'i compliant statement, but he's still very anti in his rhetoric.
To say, to have said or held that position to never marry single mums, I think, you know, you could make an argument that's even haram. Because what solution...
Have you ever said that?
What?
Have you ever said, brothers, stay away from divorcee
Yeah, of course, I have, yeah.
So it is then, you've
Yeah,
completely said it.
yeah. So you can't make that argument as Muslims. And this.
So he used to actually previously propagate and tell people stay away from divorcee women and widow women. And now he's come down a notch where he's saying that's haram and that's not acceptable. But he's still very anti in his speech.
As Muslims, and this is why I keep rooting this discussion back in our religion.
It's good.
So we have to provide solutions for them. Now one solution is what you have suggested, which is, you know, well, why can't it work? Maybe it can work. All right, well, bismillah, you know, roll the dice and hope for the best.
Roll the dice and hope for the best. Again, that is such, like, this kind of rhetoric, Yani, like, roll the dice and hope for the best. Why not, brother, take your asbab. These are advices that you should do when considering a widow or a divorcee. Why roll the dice and hope for the best? Like it's just a game of chances. See, this is, look, it sounds similar to the red pill narrative. Like what he said in the beginning. Single mums or divorcees, just have fun with them. Like, just roll the dice. It's not befitting kalam.
Another solution is, as I've mentioned to you, a lot of these sisters, by the way, who have been married a number of times, 2+ times, they are the ones who are reluctant to get into a 3rd, 4th, 5th marriage on a full-time basis. The idea, and this is where men and women differ, we have different mindsets to this. The idea for a woman who has already been in a full-time marriage 2, 3, 4 times to then do it again with another man, it's long, bruv. It's daunting. In the same breath, she still wants to be able to scratch her itch in halal.
Okay, so this situation of a sister being married and had 2, 3, 4 relationships, yeah, maybe the 4th time it's going to be daunting for her. But again, when we look at the Sahabiyat and we look at the Sahaba and the way their environment was set up, this wasn't an issue. There's various Sahabiyat that married a number of companions. Another one of them, I mentioned Atika before, another one of them is Asma bint Unais, I think it is. And she actually married 2 Khalifas. I think she was married to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and Ali radiallahu anhu. You can hit me in the comments to see if I'm right or not, but she was called, or her children were called Ibn al-Khalifatain or something like that. She even got a title for being married to 2 Khalifas. So for her to be married to more than one husband, she was actually married to, I think, 3 companions or 4 companions as well. There was no stigma attached to it. Just because this exists today, this is something that the Islamic narrative tells us, you know what, we should come away from this. And you know what, it shouldn't be a problem for us to marry whose sisters have been married before. A prime example that comes to mind for me is Salama. radiallahu anha, one of the Ummahat al-Mu'mineen, the wives of the Prophet sallam, when her husband Abu Salama passed away and he was a shaheed, all of the blessed companions, all of the Khulafa Rashideen, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman and Ali, they all asked for her hand and she refused. And even when the Prophet ﷺ came and asked for her, she said, I'll think about it. So she was a high value woman. Why don't we give the message that you could be a divorcee or you could be a widow, but if you're a high value woman, then high value God-fearing men who have taqwa will come and ask for you regardless. Why not pass that message on to our sisters instead of making them feel like, you know, useless pieces of trash or sunk ships or waste of money, like Brother Mahdi is describing them and the children?
Lad, you know, I had one sister say to me, she said to me, Mahdi, I just want to meet a brother. I'm quoting you verbatim. I just want to meet a brother in a hotel once or twice a week. We do as man and woman do, and we go our separate ways after that. Why? She's a full-time mother to a number of children, and she also has another thing going on. I'm trying to keep the details light so that this woman's sister can't be identified. Okay? Full-time mother, number of children.
Bro, this is just coming in my mind. Why are you speaking to bare sisters though? That's another topic, and I don't want to put doubts on you, but it's a bit strange that sisters are talking to you about these issues, like telling you, Mahdi, I want to meet a brother in a hotel. I mean, for me, that's just a strange thing to hear. Like, if a sister was saying that to me, I'll be like, sister, please contact my wife, talk to the sisters, and inshallah, maybe, you know, they can help you to get married. But that's inappropriate to be like having those kind of conversations with me.
Been married a number of times before. It's all long, bruv, trying to do it again in her mind. This is what she wants. Now, I already know what the response will be from the audience, which is, oh yeah, well, women say that, but she'll change her mind along the way.
I was literally going to say that. But I've dealt with cases, I've seen cases and heard cases where a misyar arrangement starts. Come check for me 2-3 times. Come check for me 2-3 times a month. No financial commitment. I'd have to cook and clean for you. Just come link me.
Yep.
We have our intimate moments. And then 1-2 months later, the expectation increases.
Yep.
All of a sudden now, there's talks of things that were not agreed upon to begin with. I've seen this myself.
Very good. Men marry women hoping she will never change.
Okay, so now they've gone on to a different topic, misyar, nikah and agreements, which is permissible in the Sharia. Let's see where the conversation goes.
Women marry men hoping he will change. You're 100% correct. You hit the nail on the head. She will expect or come to expect more from him as the marriage progresses, even if she doesn't acknowledge it in that moment. She might not even be thinking it. She may be thinking, yeah, you know what, I'm happy with this. Just once or twice a week, this is convenient for me. Trust and believe, by the time her emotions get involved, she's going to want more. And I will say this, most no strings nikah arrangements will fail. They will fail, okay? And I'll explain to you.
If you're saying that, then how can you be pushing no strings nikah?
Wallah, that's the same thing I was thinking. If you're saying that, how can you be pushing no strings nikah? If you believe it's going to fail, why propagate it? The brother's just a walking contradiction. It just makes no sense.
Okay, very good. You're going to get to a point in the marriage, with a no strings nikah type of marriage, whereby she's going to want more from you. And it is her shari'i right, by the way, to request those rights back. She has voluntarily forsaken them. She has the right to be able to retract them whenever she wants to. So you're not in a position of leverage as a man. At that moment, you come to a crossroads whereby you now must make a decision as a man. Either you take her on as a full-time wife and you make it like a conventional marriage, or you say, you know what, sister, it's not for me. If you want to continue with this arrangement, we can. If you don't want to continue with this arrangement, we're going to have to go our separate ways.
And now for me, that's not ideal, and that's not what the Sharia promotes. That's not the asl of marriage. But if that is the case, then that's the prerogative of each person in that relationship. They had a aqd, a nikah, a contract, and they decide on those terms. If the terms change, then each party has a choice to end that contract.
And the vast majority, in my estimation, of no strings nikah marriages will fail.
Okay, so if they're going to fail, then why be a part of that process? I don't understand that.
Why do I say that with my chest? It's because it's better than zina, bro. And this is the bottom line.
So that's your point. It's better than zina. That's why you're helping people to have no strings. I suppose if you're going to look at it like that, okay, it's better than zina. Of course, it's better than zina to be in a misyar relationship. But wouldn't you want to try and have these relationships happen where people find a way to make it work? Why? Yeah, all right.
And this is where we can actually draw our brother Muhammad Hijab into the conversation, because it was Muhammad Hijab who actually instilled a seed in a conversation I had with him offline that went into gestation in my mind by asking me one simple question. And he said to me, Mahdi, what is the overarching concern of the religion with regards to marriages? And I said to him, preservation of the nuclear home, right? He said to me, no. The overarching concern of the religion with regards to marriage is protecting the private parts.
Which is right. That is right. I agree that safeguarding the private parts, this is the maqsad, one of the maqasid of marriage. I agree to that. And this opens up another topic which is very controversial. Can you marry just to fulfill your sexual desire? Which, of course, in the deen is allowed, is permissible. And if you do feel that you're going into zina, and any brothers and sisters that are out there, I advise you to get married.
Now, he doesn't know it, and he didn't know it, and I didn't know it then, but that went into gestation in my mind, and I started thinking, right, so if the overarching concern is not preservation of the nuclear home, although this is very important, by the way, it's protection of the private parts, then no strings nikah is a bad solution to a worse problem. Bro, yeah, let's talk. I had a conversation with a sister the other day. She was doing the dumbest zina. It was dumb zina. I was like, why are you doing that? She said to me,
dumb zina. Why are you talking to another sister as well about dumb zina? Let's hear what he's got to say.
She said to me, look, she wanted to find out more about nostringsnikah. She said to me, I'm not going to lie to you. For the past few years, I've been committing zina with my ex-husband. Bruv, what's the point in that? Why didn't you just marry him again?
Look at Dilly's face.
You know what she said? I didn't want to marry him. You know, the whole thought of getting into a full-time marriage and him coming back and living full-time, I didn't want that.
Okay, I agree. Dilly's face was there. That is dumb zina. I agree. That is 100% dumb zina. I'll let you have that one, brother Mahdi. I'll let you have that one.
But I thought if I'm going to...
All zina is dumb, by the way, but that's this extra dumb zina.
I'm going to commit zina, better for it to be with my ex-husband than for it to be with a stranger.
Did she think she was committing a lesser of a sin or something?
Yeah.
That's mad.
Ajib gharib.
That's mad.
But if this sister knew, and this is where now the halal has become, the halal has become hard and the haram has become easy. If she was presented with this idea that there is a way whereby she can do a no strings nikah and she can engage with her ex-husband in halal without having to integrate him full-time back into her life, because that was what put her off doing nikah, right? Doing a conventional marriage, then she wouldn't have fallen into this trap. She wouldn't have fallen into zina. And that's why I say that's dumb zina. That's not even like, there's no smart zina, but that's dumb zina.
So, you know, no strings nikah. I can't help but think of no strings attached relationships, no strings attached friendships. Just means, from a Western non-Muslim point of view, as soon as you hear no strings attached, anything linked to relationships,
yeah,
it just means intimacy on tap, right? Or as and when. There's no commitment. That's essentially what it is. It's no commitment,
yeah,
right? Now, the institution of nikah, the marriage, the institution of marriage is something that is so sacrilegious and so sacred in our deen. It is to the extent where Allah dedicates aspects of His book to address these issues, right? So, I guess what I'm asking you is, or what I'm trying to say is that, on the one hand, we're trying to prevent zina. If we were to accept that no strings nikah is a solution to address this issue, where you've got divorcee women who've been married 2-3 times, don't want to commit anymore, and so forth. But then it kind of becomes like, I can't help but, what do the Shia practice? I forgot what they call it. It becomes like some of the like a muta kind of thing. Like I'm on it now. I want a no strings nikah. Not on it anymore. It could even be like, I don't actually like this guy. I want to, maybe I'll do something so he divorces me so I can go for the next man.
Sure.
Is there not a danger of kind of proliferating that kind of culture.
Absolutely, and this is why a lot of many of the ulama say it's they dislike it. It's not recommended.
Yeah, misyar is not.
Yes, makruh. It's makruh. It's disliked, hated. And that's the problem. Are we making the exception the rule? Because this is the exception. This is not the asal, the origin of nikah and marriage.
It's not something that's.
And I agree. I don't recommend it either. It's a bad solution to a worse problem, Dili.
A bad solution to a worse problem.
And the worst problem here is the overarching concern of the Sharia, to bring it back to Muhammad hijab, which is protection of the private parts. Now, and this is how we will fetter this issue, okay? Because you've touched upon a very important point, which is surely this is something that could be exploited, yani, easily. 100% agree with you.
By themselves.
By themselves, yeah.
By the people themselves, by the brothers, by the sisters. Certain people have bigger appetites than others, and then they will start now misappropriating and misusing this exemption that the Sharia provides.
This is very simple to fix. This is a very simple fix. I'll tell you this. If a sister chooses to not involve her wali, okay, we're going to have a massive problem on our hands. If she chooses to bypass her wali or ignore him or whatever.
Okay, so now this is where I agree with him. Yeah, now this is good advice that a sister should not bypass her
So
wali.
long as she sticks with her wali and her wali is involved at all stages, okay, this problem will not happen, because he will be her sieve, her net, to do the vetting of the brother on her behalf. Now, a lot of walis are not going to want to be involved with this, okay? I've actually spoken to a wali myself, with one wali that I was, for a sister that I was considering. And I spoke with the sister once. And
When you say wali, are you actually dealing with the fathers and brothers?
The brother.
Well, you're dealing with fathers and brothers, yeah?
Fathers and brothers.
Okay.
In this instance, the father is not in the picture anymore.
Okay.
He passed away, rahimahullah.
I mean.
I said to the sister, we spoke, and I said to her, okay, alhamdulillah, it seems like there could be something here. I said, you do know, by the way, that, number one, I don't take the Hanafi school of thought that a woman who's been married before can marry again without her wali, right? I don't take that. And although I understand it's a respected opinion, I said, and number two, you said, you do know I will go straight to your family. And she got like a bit shook, like, no. I said to her, listen, if I'm not involved in your brothers, I'm not involved, period. Right?
Which is good. Props to you, bro. That is a smart thing to do. But then again, why are you engaging in a misyar relationship or looking into it when you're saying that, one, most of them fail, two, it's a bad solution to a worse problem? Again, it just, the advice you're giving people, you're implementing that, the advice or the things that your people warning against, you're doing it yourself.
This is how it's going to be. She accepted. I called up her brother straight away. I spoke to her brother. I said, how you doing, bro? We're saying, how's everything? Blah, blah, blah. And I said to him, what's your take on this? And I said to him, before I asked him, I said to him, I'm going to ask your permission for something. And if you say no, despite my feeling towards this sister, I will accept it and I will walk away. And I'm not going to try and bypass you, even if your reason for no is not Shari'i compliant. Because I know I could bypass the wali, but that just gets all long and messy. I don't want to deal with that, okay?
Alhamdulillah, like, is it because it's messy or is it because you fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That's the question that we should be looking at, not because it's messy.
You need your wali, and I speak to the sisters directly. You need your wali involved every step of the way. And now I speak to the walis as well. To the walis, I say to you, you need to open your minds a little bit. Even if it's just for a regular conventional marriage, too many brothers, fathers or brothers, are turning brothers away on grounds that are just not reasonable. They are not reasonable grounds.
Okay, so look now, this is probably one of the best things that he said in the whole thing. Sisters, stick with your wali. Walis, you guys, be a bit more reasonable. Okay, that is probably the most positive message that the brother's given in this whole bloody podcast.
And as a result of that, your daughter, she's scratching her itch anyway.
Even this terminology of scratching her itch is so crude. Like, why use such crude terminologies? Like, it's just Allah musta'an.
What do you think she's going to do? You made it hard for her. And when you make the halal hard, guess what? The haram becomes easy.
I agree with that point to a certain extent. We should make it easier for our daughters, for our sisters, etc., to get married and not fall into haram. Marriage is not always the solution. Sometimes that could be a worse problem for sisters. Do you understand? And not necessarily every sister who stays single is going to fall into zina.
Nostringsnikah, is this something that you started?
Yes.
It's a website?
That makes sense now. So he's the founder of it. He started nostringsnikah.
A website?
At the moment, we have a website. We're on all social media platforms, but it's mainly Telegram for the moment. But I'm actually working with app developers to develop the app, the beta version of the app, inshallah.
Okay.
So we're on all social media platforms, but Telegram is where we're most active.
Okay.
Okay, now I apologize to the brother if I was presumptuous about why he's talking to so many sisters. Obviously, he's the founder of this app and he believes that he's doing a good thing to help people and stop them from doing zina. But the thing that I would ask you, brother Mahdi, and if you're going to watch this, I hope people will tag him in this video. Who are the ulama that are working with you, that are helping you to regulate this app and this service that you're providing for the community? This is the thing. When you're engaging in stuff like this, you cannot do stuff like this without the supervision of the ulama and scholars. Otherwise, you yourself, my brother, will fall into dramas and sin. Allahu alam.
In terms of language, the way you deliver your content, your views, the way you articulate yourself, is language like body count and getting beat and these kind of things referring to obviously the number of men that women have intercourse with or slept with, or beat referring to intercourse? Is that kind of language something you purposely utilize, or is it just part of your lingo?
I'm glad he went there because this is a good point. Why is the brother using these crude language, this stuff that is, to be honest, is very crass? And again, it's not befitting of a Muslim man to be utilizing that kind of language, especially when you're talking about our Muslim sisters.
Part of my lingo.
Do you find it
just part of my lingo, blase?
Had others convey to you that it's crass and crude?
Yeah, yourself,
Okay.
for example.
So for example, body count.
Yeah.
In a
And now I'm two. Me and Dilly are two. And I'm sure that there's many other Muslims that feel that this kind of language is not befitting for a Muslim.
convention.
Yeah, what's wrong with body count?
Okay, let me explain to you why.
Yeah.
What's wrong with body count? Are you really asking that question?
There's reality and there's environment. We are subjects of an environment, and we have various realities that shape and mold the way we think and operate and perceive good and bad, right and wrong, and so forth. So in the context of the 21st century, when we talk about body count, right, growing up in British state schools and maybe not in the most Islamic environments, it just means how many people you slept with.
Right.
Right? When you utilize that language that has a certain connotation to it, to now in the context of marriage, something which is sacred, beautiful, pure, Islamically sanctioned by God, and that terminology is now used for that, it becomes an issue.
Why? Tell me why.
Because body count as the term, as the asl root of that term, the coinage of that term, is nearly always referred to sexual promiscuity, zina, and how many sexual partners generally men have had, but also women. And women don't say,
How many sexual encounters you've had?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the difference?
The difference. No, hold on. The difference is that in the context
So he's just laughing about it, and Dilly's actually really serious, and I'm glad that he brought this up because
in which it was rooted and founded was zina. It was never in the context or in understood in the context of marriage. Okay. Because let me give you an example. If a man slept with multiple women outside of wedlock, he's a harami.
He's haram.
He's a straight up harami. He knows it. If he's a Muslim, he knows he's a harami and he best be repenting. Because he knows he can't be chest high talking about body count outside of wedlock. You can't with your boys at the gym, or with your non-Muslim friends, or with your jahil friends. Yeah, you can get away with that. But in reality, you know that, let's say, if the same brother, for whatever reason, was married and divorced to 7 women. So in his lifetime, he had 7 wives.
Yeah.
Married, divorced, stayed with some of them, 7, 8, 9. It's not the same, bro. because that could be the mother of your children. There was a nikah.
I think this is semantics, Dilly.
Nah, Habib.
Yeah, I think it's semantics.
Nah,
bro.
it's not, B. I'll tell you why. And maybe we can as brothers disagree on this. Agree to disagree on this. Beat, body count. This kind of terminology, it's used in a particular environment.
I got you.
Because, okay, let me ask you this then.
I'm glad, Dilly, you've been strong. The whole way through this, you've been so light on the brother. I'm glad you finally stuck it on him a bit. And seeing from his reaction, the brother's taken it on board. For you to say that body count within a marriage context and within a zina context, brother Mahdi, there's no difference. I mean, that's ridiculous. What about all of these? When you start talking about these issues, you got to think about there's so many sisters that are revert sisters that may have had previous relationships before coming to Islam. Are we going to interrogate them about their body count? Is that befitting? Is that something that we should do? I feel that as a strong man, those things wouldn't matter to me because I believe, inshallah, I can give that woman all that she needs. That's the advice that I would give a man going into one of those relationships, that look, you should be confident in who you are and what you can give. He may come up with some problems, but at the same time, it's about the tarbiyah, the nurturing that you give that wife once you engage in that relationship. And there's pitfalls with marrying women from a certain culture. There's pitfalls of marrying women who possibly are new in Islam. There's pitfalls with marrying people from your own culture. There's pitfalls in any kind of relationship. So to just put things down to stuff like body count, which, you know, when you're saying that there's no difference between body count, whether it's marriage or whether it's outside of wedlock, then you haven't really looked into the Sharia, because like I explained before, there's so many sahabiyat that married multiple companions and there was no stigma on that. There was no stigma on that, you know. If anything, subhanAllah, companions married them and they were from the Ashra Mubashirin. Companions that had high status would marry sisters who had been married 2-3 times before. You know, Zubair ibn Awam married Atika. He was her last husband after who? After Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu. He wasn't saying, oh, body count, a'udhu billah, this, that. And this is the difference. We have to go back to our Islamic tradition. And we have to say to sisters, you know what, sisters? If you've been married before and you've done ABC, we need to remove that stigma and find men that fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take on these sisters, and sisters that fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to act in accordance with the Sharia. And that's the solution.
I don't know, from Algeria to Bangladesh, and you man are Maghreb as in West, and we are East, right?
Yeah.
I know that even the most, what's the word I'm looking for? Even the kind of most alpha male, stud muffin kind of brother from these countries, that are from the rural areas, I don't think they'll have a terminology for body count and stuff like this.
What do you mean?
Meaning they won't refer to sexual encounters outside of wedlock, right? As in our men from our countries, from our lands, from the Muslim lands, I don't think they'll have terminologies like
I understand what you're saying.
because I guess what I'm stressing is the sacredness of marriage. That a sister could have a body.
How does it sound worse? How does it sound worse? Yani a sister having a body count of 7 or having 7 husbands, which one's worse? One is halal, 100% halal, and body count gives the connotations that she's been engaged in haram and zina and all sorts.
Why, bro?
You know that sounds worse.
How?
I'll tell you what.
This guy's off it.
Women always downplay. Okay, let's talk about non-Muslim women now. Let's take this outside of Islam. A woman who is used to sexual encounters will always downplay how many men she has had encounters with.
Yes.
Always, right? But when you say I've had 5 husbands, it sounds dead, Dilly.
It sounds dead, Dilly. What are you? Are you a kid, bruv? Like, I mean, imagine now one of the companions saying that to one of the sahabiyat that had been married previously. It sounds dead. You've been married to 4. Nah, they didn't see it like that. And the problem is with you and with the way that you think. That's the problem. The problem is with Muslim men today. If you think like this is why we're going to have problems in our society. Because we're going to leave lots of these widows and divorcees left on the sidelines and then forced them into zina. Now here in Syria, for example, I know of sisters who the first husband shaheed, second husband shaheed, third husband shaheed. Do you understand? And they've gone on to be married and be in a successful relationship. Do you understand? Because of the circumstances that they're in. Now to just blanket say, oh, if a sister's had 4 or 5 husbands, okay, that's dead and there's some, you know, that's disgusting, or it's the same as having a body count. A'udhu billah, a'udhu billah. You need to fear Allah, bro.
Sounds proper dead.
Shall I tell you why it sounds dead to the Western woman?
Yeah.
Because the Western woman does not desire marriage in the way her grandmothers
I
once
got
did.
you, and I know it was in halal, and I know, you know, and alhamdulillah, you know, the Sharia, wallahi, Islam is a practical religion at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It really does. You had 10 husbands, okay, it was in halal, it was in halal. Whether you call it husbands or body count, it's all the same for me.
And you're cool with language like beat.
For me, there's no issue with it at all.
You can carry on with that.
See, this is what I'm saying, is like you just blasé saying there's no problem with it, husbands or body count. You don't mind referring to sisters as, even if she's been married, you know, a certain amount of times, you just refer to it as body count. This mindset, this way of thinking is so toxic and is so contrary to the Sharia, and it's derogatory to the sisters. And I feel personally, someone like you should not be running a website like nostringsnikah. If this is the way you're going to think about sisters. Now, if a sister comes to you that she's been married 5 times before, and she comes to you for this no strings nikah, what are you going to say? You're dead, sister. Don't come on my platform. Like, there needs to be scholars regulating this. And this is why I advise you, bro. You're just, like, the stuff that you're saying is contrary to Islam and it's dangerous.
True.
You can carry on with that. At least reflect upon it.
I'll think about it.
For me.
I'll think about it.
For me.
Alhamdulillah, at least till he pressured him and he said he's going to think about it. Inshallah, I hope you do think about it and you do change it, bro. Because it's not befitting, bro.
Do you at least agree, before we move on to the concluding points of the podcast, do you at least accept that the terminologies of body count and beat and these kind of things, they exist in a particular environment, which is
A
the
jahil
UK,
environment.
Western, non-Muslim reality of having relationships outside of wedlock?
Yeah, I accept that.
That's all. That's what happened.
I got you.
So all I'm saying is, so now to forklift that and to now place it into the beauty of an Islamic marriage.
Yeah, this is still semantics for me, but I accept your premise.
Bro, it's not semantics. And Jazakallah khair Dilly for explaining that to him. And I hope that you take it on, bro.
Let's now talk about a recent post. Let's read it out. This was a post that you posted.
Now, I did see this post. And he's already laughing. So let's see. And obviously, this post upset a lot of people.
Posted last week.
Which one? The one that went viral on Twitter?
The one
That's like
about-
2.5 months old, bro.
Well, the one about my wife goes into labour.
Yeah, it's old.
Ross, how come he's doing the rounds now?
Someone picked it up, put it on Twitter, the algorithm did all the rest of the work.
Do you mind if I read it out?
Of course.
My wife goes into labour immediately after Fajr. I told her, great, I'm going to bed. Wake me up when it's done. I refuse to sit on labours. It is not, capitalised not, a man's place, and never was, even in Britain, up until the feminist revolution. Why would I want to see my wife in that state? How am I meant to sleep with her again after witnessing that traumatic nightmare? She understood, of course.
Okay, there's too much things going on here. First of all, number one, he says, wake me up when it's done. Now, when I look at this statement, and I look at how an Islamic man is supposed to be, رِجَالُ قَوَّمُونَ, maintainers and protectors. For me, when I hear that, the first thing I say is, bro, like, do you have no sense of responsibility? You're talking about now a man, when a robber comes to attack his house, that he needs to be the one to defend her. Okay, don't you need to make sure your wife is good and wake me up when it's done? Like she's just washing the dishes or something. Like there's no sanctity, there's no shukr. You know, the hadith says, "Man la yashkur nas la yashkur Allah." That those that don't thank the people don't thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no shukr for the fact that your wife is going to go into a delivery and the pangs of giving birth are going to be there, and you're not even going to like acknowledge it. Yeah, just wake me up when it's done. I find that terrible. And then you go on to say that gonna have to rewind it because I forgot what you said here.
To bed, wake me up when it's done. I refuse to sit on labours.
I refuse to sit on labours. Now, I refuse to sit on labours, fine. I mean, that's not a major issue in many cultures around the world. For example, here in Syria, in the Arab world, it's not normal for men to be there in the labour room. That's fine. But again, it's the way that you've delivered it, like you don't give a damn. And you've just left her to her demise and her problem. So the issue of whether a man should be in a delivery room or not, that's a completely different topic, and we can people can have their different opinions on it.
It is not, capitalised not, a man's place, and never was, even in Britain, up until the feminist revolution.
Like I said, no problem if that's your position.
Why would I want to see my wife in that state? How am I meant to sleep with her again after witnessing that traumatic nightmare?
See, now this is the derogatory kind of disgusting kind of yani kalam. Like now, why would I want to see this disgusting nightmare or horror or whatever you've described it as? Ya akhi, the woman's giving birth to your child, bro. Have some like shame, bro. Have some izzah for your wife, and then you're talking about wanting to sleep with her after that, bro. Like, if you don't want to be there, don't be there. But you don't need to be like, oh, this is disgusting and she's disgusting for having a child, and you having to see that is going to be such a traumatic experience, bro. Buck up, bruv, you're a man. You know, some men have to, their wife might be in a place and she gives birth, they have to deliver the baby themselves. They don't say after that, oh my God, it's so traumatic, I can never sleep with my wife again. What is this, bruv?
She understood, of course. Better still, she agrees. 2 hours later, she comes upstairs with the baby, home birth, and wakes me up to a beautiful new addition to our family. Mabruk akhi.
She understood, she agrees, maybe she does. But I don't think that she can like the way that you're selling this and the way that you're speaking about her giving birth.
P.S. The midwives didn't even make it in time. She handled that business on her own like a real boss babe.
Mabruk as well for your child. I have to say that. She handled it, no problem. I feel that why a lot of people were upset with this is because of the complete lack of disregard that you've shown for your wife in this post. And to be honest, I think you've done that purposefully. I think that this brother, he is chasing clout, and that's why he's saying stuff like this.
And it's just very recently gone viral with very prominent Instagram accounts sharing it in their stories, asking what people's thoughts are. How many comments is there? About 4,000 plus?
Yeah, more than I have followers.
Okay. Can I go through with the statement with you?
Yes, of course, yeah.
Okay. So we're both recent fathers.
Break it down, Lily. Go on, break it down.
We both had daughters, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. And labour is a conversation which I've had with some brothers.
You both had daughters. I don't think you would be happy with your son-in-law if he made a statement like that about your own daughter. And if you did, then you got a problem when it comes to ard. And this concept exists in the deen where you have izzah for your women folk. And that's a problem. If you will be happy for someone to say that about your daughter tomorrow, that, yeah, call me when it's done, I just left her, giving birth to the baby downstairs on her own. Allah mustaan, I don't know what to say to you.
Right? So, can I ask you something?
Yes.
Just my wife goes into labour immediately after Fajr, alhamdulillah. I told her, great, I'm going to bed. Wake me up when it's done. Is that really what went down?
Yeah.
All of it?
Of course. Oh, not just that. I've got on the new iPhone you can put some white noise on.
Yeah.
So I made sure I put some like ocean waves so that I sleep like comfortably. Alhamdulillah.
He's so obnoxious about it. Like, it's like, I just find it so distasteful. It's so distasteful that you would just blasé say that and not think that people would have a problem with it.
Jamal, what are you cracking up for? What are you cracking up for? We're all gonna get it, yeah? If I'm gonna go down, I'm taking everyone down with me.
Yeah, you're gonna get it, dilly, bro, because you shouldn't be laughing about it. To be honest, I wouldn't laugh like I'm with the boys and chatting about this, because to be honest, it's not a. There's no honor in the position that the brother's holding. The way he's talking about it, it's not honorable at all.
Okay, so what happened if something went wrong, bro?
Then
What?
she'll call me.
What happened if there's like major blood loss, bro, and she can't call out to you?
All right, let me give it some more context. I feel like I haven't given it enough context.
And what the maddest thing is, just last week, there was research published, right? I'll send it to you and I'll put it at the bottom of the video, where BAME women, specifically the Channel 4 highlighted Muslim women, have the most complications at birth in British hospitals. Now, the context is hospitals and this is home birth. I get it. But what would you have done?
So Dilly's highlighted to him, bro, you need to be a bit more responsible than that. Like, it's not a joke, bruv. You know what I mean? There's serious consequences that can happen.
Mostly the midwives have been called.
Okay.
Okay? The front door was open.
Okay.
So
Oh, mashallah, you left the front door open. Maintainer and protector left the front door open, mashallah.
after I went upstairs, it was a matter of minutes before the midwives had arrived.
I think the problem is, bro, you're queasy, bro. You got shook, and that's why you just left on the floor, left the front door open, and then the midwives come a few minutes later. Let's be real in it. Just be honest about it. Say, I'm queasy, I don't like it, and I couldn't handle a bit of blood and a bit of screaming and a bit of placenta and all of that.
My wife is used to very quick labors. Okay, they come out fast. In fact, we decided to stop going to the hospital when she gave birth to Yusuf in the hallway of the hospital. She was walking. I didn't even make it on time, by the way. I didn't even make it. She was walking.
Did you try and make it on time?
She was holding the nurse's arm and she said, I'm not going to make it to the ward. I need to do it right now. I need to give birth right now. And she dropped down in the middle of the hall and the baby came out then and there. Right there. After that experience, she said, Mahdi, never again. Home births and that's it. I said to her, excellent, so much the better.
Okay, so fair enough. If you decided that you want to do home births now because of that and you don't want to see that experience and you don't want your wife to be exposed in front of people and stuff, no problem. That's, again, Islamic position. We shouldn't be the youth. We shouldn't be loose with our women folk and we shouldn't want them to be exposed, aura, all of that kind of stuff. But then at the same time, you leave the door open. What if next man walked in the house by mistake? What if the postman came and walked in? You just left the door open and you're chilling upstairs with the white noise.
Okay. So door was open, midwives have been called, and her older daughters were also upstairs and aware of the situation anyways. So I had already had my contingencies in place. I love my wife. I'm not going to put her in a situation
So
whereby...
Yanni, why didn't you include that in the poll?
Because it wouldn't have went viral.
Come on, bro.
Look, there you go. Subhanallah, look. Okay, so the older daughters are upstairs as well, which still, personally, I don't think that's that doesn't cut it. But look at the real asl, and this is the problem. Why are people doing things on social media? I wanted the post to go viral. What's the message? You made that post go viral. You upset lots of Muslimin because of what? What was the message? That men shouldn't be in the delivery room? That's not the message you sent. The message that you sent is that I have no regard for my wife. And all because you wanted it to go viral. This is the problem, Niyyah, my brothers and sisters. Like, why are we doing things? Why are we on social media? Why am I doing this video right now? Am I doing this video because I want to rip into this brother Mahdi? Because I want to backbite him and I want to make him feel bad? No, the reason why I'm doing this video, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give me ikhlas, is because I genuinely believe that his position is not from Islam. And this kind of way that he's talking about our Muslim sisters, it is our duty. Someone needs to speak and say, brother, the way you're talking about Muslim sisters, the way you're talking about your own wife, bruv, is not befitting and you need to stop. Because it doesn't look good on your family and it don't look good on you as a Muslim man.
Look, I told you, women especially, they're bored, bro. They need a reason to be angry.
So why are you paying into their boredom for? You like it?
You know this post, by the way?
Do you like winding sisters up?
There are times, I'll answer that. There are times when I am intentionally obnoxious, okay? With how I write my post. That was not.
And is that Islamic to be intentionally obnoxious? Is something that is Islamic or something that you've got from the red pill movement?
Not one of them. That was really me just writing, yeah. I just wanted to write.
And that's worse. If you weren't being intentionally obnoxious here and that's really you, that's even worse. That's even worse. It's mad. That's even worse, bruv.
But sometimes I am intentionally obnoxious.
Why?
Look, social media is a game of attention, okay?
Yes.
So some people say to me, oh, Mahdi, you're a clout chaser. I say, yeah, of course I'm a clout chaser. Absolutely, I'm a clout chaser. Anyone who is creating content on social media...
is an element of clout chasing.
Nobody created a video and said, you know what? I hope it only gets 1 view. I hope nobody shares it. Everyone's clout chasing.
You see, this is the problem. Now, say everyone is clout chasing, it is not true. And okay, let's just say we agree and we say, okay, people are clout chasing, but for what reason? Why are you trying to propagate a message? Why are you trying to make noise? Is there a message that is Islamic, that goes in line with the Quran and the Sunnah? And that's the problem. Your message and the way that it's packaged is not befitting. And that's the problem. Now, your message, if you wanted to package it, which was, and if it was genuine, and your niyyah was, you know what, I want to talk to people and say, look, men shouldn't be in the delivery room, etc., all props to you. But the reality is your niyyah was corrupted because you wanted it to go viral. That was more important for you than the message. And that's a problem. And that's a fitna for every single person that is on social media, including myself. I've fallen into this myself, where sometimes I'm putting posts out there for just nonsense, just to put it out there, because I want people to see something and I want people to follow my pages. Now the problem with that is, and alhamdulillah, I've had my nieces, some of my cousins, some of my family pull me up and say, look, what are you doing? What is this post? This post is dumb. It's just nonsense. And alhamdulillah, I'm glad there's people there to check me, because social media is a dangerous place. And that's my advice to every single person. If you're on social media because you're chasing clout, then what differentiates you as a Muslim influencer, okay, from all those other people? It becomes a dunya reason that you're on social media. And that is exactly why we shouldn't be on social media, because it can become a fitna for us. And it can be, I always say that social media can be something that can be a path for us to Jannah, that we can use it for good and we can build a sadaqah jariyah, or it can be something for us that can take us straight to Jahannam, because now we're not doing stuff for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're just doing it because we want clout and we want people to follow us, and that is dangerous. May Allah protect me from it. May Allah protect Brother Mahdi, Brother Dili, and all of the people that are trying to generally put out, a good message for Islam and the Ummah. Ameen.